Hey besties, welcome back to Coffee, Crochet, and Conversation for our weekly check-in because apparently my life decided this was a good week to improvise. And Mother Nature had a hot flash, I think, and threw herself into the freezer. We had an impromptu sleepover, which, if you didn't know, 3 teenage boys will absolutely demolish a 3-pound package of hot dogs. It's almost like it's a competitive sport. And we had a 3-day weekend. And my training this week was very much like I will have to make my body do it type of situation. Because let me tell you, when it's single-digit temperatures outside, motivation takes one look at my cold basement and goes, "No, love, let's stay in a warm bed." So yeah, we had to drag a bitch through. Growth, character development, and honestly, probably a little trauma. But that actually kind of sets the tone for today, because today's topic is health anxiety. And specifically that moment when, something tiny happens in your body and your brain immediately goes, "Let's hyper focus on this all day." Yes, this is how I die. You know the moment. A harmless sensation, a weird twinge, a flutter. Something feels off for like half a second, and suddenly you're mentally updating your will and wondering if you have enough time to stock the freezer with pre-made meals for your family. And if you've ever Googled a symptom and planned your funeral in the process, welcome, bestie. You're among friends here. So today we're going to dig into anxiety versus intuition, physical symptoms that feel very, very real, very, very rude, were not invited, and usually show up with a few friends. And also why Google should come with a warning label and a coupon for a free therapy session. Maybe a bottle of wine. Something. Because when anxiety lives in your body, everything feels suspicious. And Dr. Google, oh, that bitch is not here to help. She's here to escalate. Because what else are we supposed to do with all the worst case scenarios right at our fingertips? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the spiral, because that's where it all starts. You know, that fun little thing that your brain does when it hops on a merry-go-round you never asked to ride. And the operator's probably a little drunk and didn't realize he's cranked it to full speed. Because health anxiety is not subtle. It does not tiptoe in. It kicks down the door, rearranges the furniture, and blocks the exits. Anxiety has this fun little talent where it can mimic everything. Chest tightness, nausea, dizziness, sweating, random pains that show up like an uninvited guest who did not bring snacks or coffee. And the worst part, the second you notice one symptom, just notice it. Your brain zooms in like, yes, this is important. Focus on this. Nothing but this, just this. The more you focus on it, the more you feel it, which then makes you focus more, which then makes the feeling stronger, which then makes you focus more, which then makes the feeling bring in a friend. Because other parts of your body have now decided they were also invited by anxiety to join this little party of misery. Suddenly you're stuck in a never-ending feedback loop where your body and your brain are hyping each other up like they're at a conspiracy convention. Anxiety is the performer, and your body is, like Flavor Flav or Lil Jon, just yelling nonsense in the background. Your brain's favorite trick during stress is pattern hunting. It is constantly trying to connect the dots that don't need connected. It's kind of like a 2-year-old with a permanent marker and a white wall. Nobody wants it. The cleanup is exhausting, and you were already tired. Oh, you felt dizzy yesterday? and today your chest feels weird? Interesting. Let's ruin your entire afternoon. And that's usually the moment you ask yourself, is something wrong? Is it just my anxiety again? Am I dying? Or do I literally just need to like sit down and breathe before I pass out? Because when anxiety hits your body, logic clogs out. You're not calm. You're not analyzing data. You are vibing in fear. And I want to be really clear about this next part. Physical symptoms do not mean imaginary symptoms. You're not making this up. You're not just being dramatic. You're not just in your head. And anyone who tells you this is not invited to my TED Talk today. Anxiety lives in the body too. Matter of fact, just like all emotions, it also loves to redecorate without asking. It messes with your nervous system, your muscles, your stomach, your breathing, your heart rate. It shows up physically because that's just kind of how stress works. The problem isn't that the symptoms aren't real. The problem is that the anxiety lies about what they mean. It's not the word that's the problem. It's the definition that your brain's trying to assign to it. And like I said, that lie, that's where the spiral starts. All right, so it's time for our Stitch Happens, our little humor story of the week, where we take a break from the heavy stuff and just talk about the daily chaos that's life. So this story is from when my kids were little. I want to say 6 or 7. We live in a rural area, so there's like no sidewalks. There's just big ditches and cars that apparently think that the speed limit is a suggestion. Yeah, my kids, in my opinion, were old enough to play outside on their own, but I would still go outside with a book because anxiety, parenting. It was a hot day. So I went inside. I was going to refill our drinks and grab them some popsicles. I was inside maybe a minute, 2, tops. I come back out. They're not in the front yard anymore. Okay, fine. No big deal. I check around the side yard. I go to the backyard. No kids. All right. Maybe they went inside while I was grabbing the popsicles and I just missed them. So I go back into the house. Still no kids. Now I'm officially freaking out because, my kids are gone. I'm running through the house. I'm yelling their names. I run to the end of the driveway. I'm wondering, did they slide into the ditch? Would they are not, absolutely not supposed to be anywhere near, because I have very clear boundaries marked and they were told the point they were not supposed to go past. Nothing. I'm looking down the street like, are they walking on the side of the road? Nothing. At this point, full panic has set in. They kidnapped? Were they hit and drugged by a car? I run back into the house and I grab my phone because I gotta call somebody because I don't know what to do. And as I'm dialing, I glance back outside and notice there's a weird shadow in my car. My car. So I run outside, I fling the door open, and there they are in the back seat, giggling, just living their best lives. Because apparently watching mom run around screaming, ripping her hair out was funny. And it's one of those parenting moments where you want to hug them and strangle them and cry and scream and pass out all at the same time. This is why parents have gray hair. Let's talk about when reassurance turns into gasoline, also known as Dr. Google. Because somehow we all know better, and yet we keep going back. Googling symptoms feels responsible. It feels proactive. Like, I am just being informed. Maybe so I just know what else to look out for. But in reality, it's anxiety in a trench coat pretending to be self-care. You start out thinking you're paying attention to what to look out for, and anxiety translates that into, how can I mimic this to the best of my ability? It's the overreacting diva in the school play. No subtlety, no subtlety, no restraint, straight to an Oscar-worthy performance, which that mouth stumble was not, because it never stops at mild symptoms. It's always mild symptoms to rare disease to obituary. There is no middle ground. There is no, have you actually drank any water today? Or when's the last time you really ate something? Nope. Too simple. That's too boring for anxiety. We are immediately at estate planning and funeral arrangements. And anxiety, oh, she's slick about it. It creates more symptoms while you're reading, which makes you click every link and description, which then makes that rare disease feel like it's more likely. Oh, wow, my chest feels tighter now? Interesting. Definitely not because I'm panicking. And let's be clear about something. The algorithms do not care about your mental health. They're about engagement. And one of the top engagers is fear, along with anger and porn, probably porn. So once you click that one scary thing, congratulations, you've entered the doom lightning round. You're not getting balanced information anymore. You're getting content designed to keep you scared, so you keep scrolling. Each new symptom is a click, and each click is another, well, maybe it's this instead. Meanwhile, Dr. Google's in a corner collecting ad revenue like, wow, really sorry about your impending doom. Do you want to buy a mattress? And then there's confirmation bias. You don't stop scrolling when you feel better. You stop when you find the one thing that confirms what you're scared of and go, see, I knew it. Because anxiety doesn't want you to feel better. Oh no, that bitch wants to be right. It needs to prove it to you. So here's an important way to reframe it. Google doesn't know you. It doesn't know your medical history. It doesn't know your anxiety patterns. And it also doesn't know that you slept like garbage, drank too much coffee, and the last thing you ate was the leftover mac and cheese from your kid's plate from dinner last night. It doesn't know that you're already on edge. Anxiety loves certainty, even if it's bad certainty. Because for some reason, the feeling of this is definitely something terrible feels safer than I don't know. Anxiety will always choose the devil it might be. Google's kind of like that plain powdered creamer that's always on the table. Nobody actually wants it, except maybe, I had a grandma who grew up during the Depression, so she did. It's there. It's available. It says creamer. But every time you try it, it just makes these big powdered clumps that will explode and coat your mouth and immediately ruin your coffee. So maybe, just maybe, we stop inviting her into the conversation. All right, it's time for Brews News, where we sip the coffee, side-eye the system, and I try to make sure the actual facts get reported. So first up, as always, the Epstein files. Yes, those Epstein files. The story only dies when we let it. The Department of Justice is still refusing to release them. Even though it's like a month, Congress has been legally entitled to them. Congress could have held Attorney General Pambani in contempt this week. They did not. Instead, they were more worried about the Clintons. They talked about it. They threatened it. They're considering it. But they said that they're doing their best and did nothing. So the two members of Congress who created the Transparency Act requested through the judge a third-party monitor to oversee how the DOJ is handling the files. At first, the judge said that he wanted to hear from the victims, so victims filed their own request, which tells you exactly how much trust is left here for the DOJ. Well, the federal judge, unfortunately, had to issue the order that it's outside of his authority. But he did invite the victims to pursue lawsuits if they believe their rights are being violated. Translation: this is messed up, but I can't fix it. Now, I follow a writer. She doc dumped the Epstein files in a Dropbox. So I've been able to start going through the files myself. And let me tell you, early on, one thing was clear. People inside the system back in 2008 knew this was not normal. There's emails where federal prosecutors were frustrated by how soft and slow it was handled. A secret non-prosecution agreement was negotiated without informing the victims, which is not standard. Epstein was allowed to plead to charges that hadn't even been filed yet to shield him from federal consequences. Even the local police had sent a letter believing that the evidence supported far more serious charges. So the bottom line is this. The people closest to the evidence believed stronger action was warranted. But yet the people with the decision-making power chose leniency. And that's not speculations. It's in the records. The next story is a loaded bomb. It's the investigation into the killing of Renee Good. It's expanding. Yet somehow it doesn't include the ICE agent that actually shot her. So a newly released autopsy confirmed Renee was still alive when the EMS arrived at the scene. Despite that, ICE agents had blocked the paramedics, and there was a doctor on scene, and they refused to allow the doctor to provide aid. Those delays happened during the window when she actually could have been helped. Meanwhile, officials are emphasizing that the ICE officer suffered internal bleeding, which a lot of medical professionals want more information because internal bleeding can range from a serious injury to a bruise. Critics argue the focus is being used as a distraction from the central fact. Renee was alive and life-saving care was delayed. And yet still, there's no investigation into the shooter, but there is one into the mayor, into the governor, and into Renee's grieving widow, which caused 100 or so DOJ lawyers to resign. Sit with that. Anyway, that's your bruise news. Drink up. The aftertaste is accountability avoidance. So let's talk about living with the unknown. The body's a mystery. And the hardest part of health anxiety is that unknown factor. Especially now. You don't have to walk to the library, check out 15 medical textbooks, and drag along 3 dictionaries just to kind of interpret what you're reading on why exactly your toe is twitching. Information is one button away, and suddenly we are all doctor-trained detectives. In reality, we're more like a 3-year-old outside making mud pies. Nothing is real, and everything is a mess. Because the body's kind of a messy mystery. It does weird stuff, it makes weird noises, and it will send signals with absolutely no context, and then refuse to elaborate, which, rude much. Part of the work, unfortunately, is learning to sit with uncertainty, discomfort, and not knowing immediately what something means, which is 2 things anxiety really hates: not knowing and waiting. Because sometimes the weird thing you feel, it really means nothing at all, which, again, rude. I would love instant answers all the time. A big shift for me has been learning how to tell the difference between something new and persistent versus anxiety noise. Anxiety is loud and dramatic and shows up all at once. Real issues, they tend to be consistent, and they don't vanish when you're distracted or when you calm down. So I kind of go through like a mental checklist. Yes, I feel this right now. Did I feel it yesterday? Do I remember feeling it last week? And I try to calm down. Then I try to distract myself and see if once I'm distracted, it goes away. This is where tools can actually help. And I'm not talking about the Instagram kind. I'm talking about real life ones. Like grounding. Get out of your head, get back into your body. Time boundaries on Google. Example, I am not allowed to look up after 9 p.m. because nothing good happens after 9 p.m. And if I don't sleep, it will hurt me, not help me. Also check for patterns, not moments. Not this feels weird right now, but has this happened consistently over time and not just when I freak out? And I want to be really clear and gentle about this. You can take symptoms seriously without panicking. Those two things are not the same. Listening to your body just doesn't mean you have to interrogate it. And caring doesn't mean you blow it up. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say, I don't know yet, and that's okay. I know. It sounds easier than it is. All right. Well, we've worked ourselves up. Now it's time to ground ourselves out. It's time for Shuffle Happens. And the next card in our deck is the Moon. As always, let me paint you a picture. It's a cloudy night on a coastline. At the base of the mountain, there's a path. Standing there is a figure. He has a human-shaped body but wolf ears. And you don't see their face. They're looking away from you at the path, searching for a way forward. Next to them is a wolf companion, but the wolf is facing you, like it's watching the figure's back while they figure out the next steps. Ahead of the figure is fog and waves blocking. The path forward is completely obscured, as if the fog is deliberately hiding the way. But further up the path, climbing into the mountain, is another figure. They've made it across, and they're walking into a glowing doorway. On top of this mountain is a lighthouse. Shines steady, guiding the way, almost like come to me. The moon itself is huge and bright, surrounded by clouds and birds gliding through the sky. Off to the side of the lighthouse is what looks to be like it could be a castle, but you can't see the details. It's just a silhouette, swallowed by the fog. So let's talk the meaning of this card. Upright, the moon is about illusion, fear, the subconscious, and not having all the information yet. It's the card of anxiety, intuition, and things feeling bigger and scarier in the dark. Reverse, it's that fog starting to lift. It's that fear losing its death grip. You start to realize what you imagined might not be what's actually there. And it hits for health anxiety. The moon reminds us not everything that is unclear is dangerous. Fear distorts perception, and it fills in the blanks with worst-case scenarios. That wolf-deer figure at the edge of the fog, that's us. Aware, alert, guarded. The wolf that's watching their back, well, that's your instinct doing its job. It's not panicking. It's just protecting. You may not see the whole path, and you may not know what's ahead yet, but there is a way. There is guidance, and someone ahead of you has already made it there, further up the mountain. So the closing thought I want to leave you with is this. Just because you are in the dark does not mean that you are lost. All right, before we wrap up, I want to say this clearly and without minimizing anything. Your experiences are real, and your fear makes sense. If your body has ever done something weird and sent your brain into a tailspin, that does not mean you are weak or dramatic. It means you're human. And your nervous system is doing what it's supposed to. Protect you. It just tends to be a little overzealous. Sometimes it doesn't realize that the threat is a perception through a foggy glass. So be gentle with your body. because it's carrying you through a lot, and with your mind, because fear doesn't mean failure. And sometimes, honestly, the bravest thing we can do is not consult Dr. Google and just breathe. As always, like, follow, share, subscribe, rate, all the things that kind of feed that algorithm monster and spreads our insanity further into the world. And remember, keep your stitches sassy, your coffee strong, and your spirit grounded.